Hello lovely people, welcome back to Naturally Selfish. I hope you're all well. Today we're finishing off our week of dinners following a big grocery shop which will last us at least 2 weeks. And I like to make sure that our money stretches so that we are still eating wholesome, hearty and nutritious food throughout that whole period. Keep watching to see how I do it. So I'm starting today with beef burrito bowls. I used to be gluten free and weirdly enough when I got pregnant I stopped being sensitive to gluten. It's a very strange experience that I've had. If anyone else has ever had that, please let me know down below, because I thought I was always going to be sensitive to gluten and now all of a sudden I'm not. However, I'm still in my ways and I prefer to not eat bread when I can, just because I'm quite scared of it. So yeah, today we're going to have essentially a burrito without the wrap. I'm starting off by browning my meat, and then I've just added a whole diced onion. I like to add the meat first just to sort of brown it off and then get the excess water out of it, and I also just find that it saves me from having to do the onions, remove the onions, add the meat, add the onions back in. It just sort of shortens the whole process. And I'm seasoning my meat in layers as always, salt and pepper. So now I am cutting up a red onion, and this will be for the pico de gallo. I've sort of made it up as I went along. I wanted a base of sweet corn and then obviously adding onions. You would usually add coriander, but I had parsley to hand. I couldn't find any coriander in the shop, so we make do and add parsley instead. I really liked it with the parsley actually, and I think it's a good substitute for those who absolutely despise coriander. I've just added a little bit of oil to the beef because it is 5% extra lean beef, and that's just to stop those onions from catching. I've then added some boiling water to my sweet corn. It's frozen sweet corn. I find it works perfectly fine. You can use canned if you want. I just find it easier to store as frozen. I've now also made my own taco seasoning. I added dried chilies, smoked paprika, salt, cumin, oregano, black pepper and a tiny bit of cayenne pepper. I am not that keen on cayenne pepper, but I added it anyway just to enhance the spice. And then obviously I will be adding salt and pepper, onions and garlic fresh as I cook the food. I also added a bit of that olive oil to stop the seasonings from sticking to the pan and burning. I've added some tomato puree, and I'm just working that tomato puree into the meat to try and toast the flavours a bit more. Typically for a burrito bowl I prefer to have the beef drier in consistency rather than a sort of saucier chili. I just find that works better for a burrito type meal. And now I'm just deglazing the pan with a tiny bit of water just to lift up all those flavours. So I've drained my sweet corn. I'm now adding the onion to my sweet corn. You'll see me sort of go between the beef and the other elements of the dish just to make sure that nothing's burning. You'll see there that I've just turned down the heat on my beef. And I'm now adding some rinsed black beans. You can use kidney beans for this. Tasting the beef to make sure that it's seasoned properly. I felt that it needed a little bit more of that seasoning. I tend to always make a bit more than I think I'll need. Adding a bit more salt there. And tasting again. A trick I used from working in a kitchen is using a spoon, but so you're not going through different spoons. You have one spoon, and then if you want to keep trying the food, you just put the food onto that same spoon without having to double dip your spoon essentially and put bacteria into the food. Obviously at home it doesn't really matter as much, but I just like to do it because I know that I'm saving that food for later in the week. If it was a meal that is going to be eaten in one go and it's your close immediate family, then you know it's probably not that big of a deal, but I just do it out of habit. Finally dicing my tomato for the pico de gallo. And I'm letting that beef sit. So as I mentioned earlier, I am using parsley for this recipe. I initially wasn't sure if it was going to work, but as I couldn't find the coriander, I just thought, let's give it a go. And it worked out. I think this is an important thing when cooking, and I try to practice this as much as possible. As much as I think it's important to keep traditional with certain elements of food, I don't think there's anything wrong with using what you have and, you know, making it work with what you have at hand. I've just added some extra virgin olive oil and some salt and pepper. and I am juicing a lemon. I started off with half a lemon just to make sure it wasn't too citrusy. The lemon squeezer not doing its job, it let a seed loose. Then I'm just giving it a mix, and I'm going to try it and make sure that it's balanced in flavour. Felt like it needed a little bit more tang, and again, this is another example of sort of working with elements of food that are, you know, within the same family, but it's not exactly what you would use. So for example, here I would be using lime if I was trying to be, you know, spot on with what you would typically put in Mexican food, but I don't really use lime. I would only have used lime for this meal. I use lemon all the time, and so it didn't make sense to me to buy a whole pack of limes. When I was at the supermarket, I couldn't see singular limes, so I picked up lemons and made it work, and it did work. It was fine. It's a citrus, it gave it a tang, and it was really yummy. I'm adding my secret weapon here, which is peri peri seasoning. I picked this up in Aldi actually, and when I read the ingredient list, it is really clean in terms of, you know, what's in it, and hardly any, if any, preservatives. That's my meat all finished. And I've just shredded some lettuce there. In between all of that, I have also made some very basic guacamole with lemon, a bit of that peri peri seasoning and avocado, and mashed it. I also have a bit of homemade sauerkraut there, which I will do a video on as I am running out and I will need some. And here I am plating the food. Day 5. We had a bit more of a simple dinner this day. I was feeling like I just needed a simple protein, carb, vegetable meal. So I decided to do an Asian inspired salmon with stir-fried broccoli and bulgur wheat. I also noticed that I spelt bulgur wheat wrong in the last video, so I'm really sorry about that. It's also a baby wearing day today. Little Bob just didn't want to be put down, and that's okay. We lean into those days, and if he wants to help me cook, then that's what we'll do. You will hear me humming to him and talking to him to keep him occupied. So I'm just adding again another sort of hack of mine, which is a seasoning mix. I do like to make seasoning mixes myself just because a lot of them do have preservatives and additives in them that are unnecessary. But if I find one that's quite good quality, like the peri peri seasoning, as well as that other pot of seasoning that I just showed you, then I will use them because it saves me a lot of time. That again I found in Aldi. I haven't seen it since, but I have a sweet sriracha one and then a smoky chipotle one. So here I have some tender stem broccoli, and I'm just going to cut the ends off. So I'm just discussing with my husband how to cut the broccoli. This is one of his favourite dishes from his childhood, so I wanted to make sure that I did it right. That broccoli. Not quite sure what was going on when I thought it'd be a good idea to try and lift a hot steaming basket across the kitchen, but obviously I decided that that wasn't going to work. My husband is also in the background putting a shift in, doing the dishwasher and cleaning up behind me so that we can relax for the evening together. So I'm just starting my sauce or seasoning mix for the broccoli, starting with a bit of salt, then adding some sugar. I've used coconut sugar in this recipe today, and some Chinese cooking wine, a little bit of chicken bouillon, some corn flour or cornstarch, and some oyster sauce. Then I'm just giving that a good mix. I've also added a tiny bit of water just to sort of help with the viscosity of it. That was me smelling the spoon, not eating it. I do realise it looks like I tried that very weird concoction of seasoning. This is also the point in the video where I realised that I hadn't put my wall lights on. So worrying that the first half of the video has bad lighting. Hopefully it's better from here on. So I'm just frying off some ginger and some garlic for the base of this dish. Adding in the broccoli. And I'm not sure if you can hear, but my husband's in the background guiding me through how to make this. That was a bit of Chinese cooking wine. And then adding in the sauce bit by bit. I think in hindsight the pan was a little bit too hot, and next time I do it I am going to cut the heat just to get that sauce in and get it mixed in properly before it starts thickening, because the cornstarch I found really stuck to the bottom of the pan and congealed quite quickly. It still tastes delicious and we did get a good amount of sauce on the broccoli, but I just think for next time I will lower the heat before I do that step. So now the bulgur wheat is cooked, I'm giving it a good fluff up, and then we are ready to serve. One thing I really like to do with my husband, and one thing we do as a family I suppose, is debrief while I'm cooking dinner. So he'll often stand in the kitchen with me because I've asked him to and we just chat and laugh and have a joke, and sometimes listen to music, or we'll talk about our day at work or whatever we've been doing. and I just find it's bonding time. And obviously, like earlier, he will be helping out in other ways so that I can relax in the evening too. I've popped on the broccoli and the salmon. I did have to take a bit of the seasoning off the salmon because it caught a little bit, but luckily we got that flavour from it as it was cooking. I'm also adding a bit of sriracha mayo. And that was dinner. It was very well enjoyed and very nutritious. So, day 6, finally getting through the week. We started off with a leak. Again, these leeks are so dirty. I don't mind, I just don't understand why they're so dirty in comparison to other vegetables. This chopping board was fighting me today. I have no idea why it was slipping around the side. It was one of those days. I've washed those leeks very well, and I have peeled some carrots which I'm now going to dice. I put a cloth underneath the chopping board, but to be honest that wasn't very helpful either because it was just all over the place. You will see as the video progresses that today's dinner was about survival and getting through to the end. It was a lovely dinner, but you will see the chaos unravel as we go along. I've got half a butternut squash here which I'm going to add to the mix. I am dicing the butternut squash in smallish cubes. So here I've just added some butter and some olive oil and my leeks. I roasted a whole chicken earlier on, and I will show you later on what I did with that chicken. Today's recipe is using the breast. I'm adding the carrots and the butternut squash now to the leeks to saute. I also don't know what's going on with my tripod. It was not having a fun time. It was all over the place, and I'm really sorry for any swaying that you see. I'm probably going to look into getting a new tripod so that that doesn't keep happening and it's a bit more sturdy. And here is where the chaos begins. So I ended up somehow burning the bottom of my pan. Luckily it didn't catch much of the vegetables, so I was able to quickly get it out into a bowl and transfer it into a new pot. Adding some smoked paprika here and some tomato puree. You'll find that I don't tend to measure things, I just chuck them in, hope for the best. I'm adding some Italian seasoning as well as some dried chilli. I do like to try and make use of dried herbs. In an ideal world I would have herbs in my garden. I do have a lot of rosemary and a lot of mint. So this is what I did with the chicken. I was able to collect meat for sandwiches for the next few days. I have the breasts for dinner, I have the bones for stock, and then I am using what was left in the baking tray and I scrubbed that down with a bit of stock and added it to my meal for the extra flavour. I've also added some frozen stock that I had made previously and was sat in the freezer. And I am now adding roughly shredded chicken. Adding some butter beans here. Adding some butter beans for a little bit of extra fibre and nutrients. I also think it just makes the meal a little bit more hearty. And then here I am going in with that extra roasting flavour. I'm also just going in again with the stock to make sure I lift up all of those leftover bits. Popping in some fresh spinach here. It was looking a little bit ropey by this point in the week, so I was sort of picking through it, but truth be told, I hate food waste, and so if there are a few bits that look a bit weird, they're going to be boiled down anyway, and I don't want to waste them. Here I have some of the broth and a whole pot of cottage cheese. I absolutely despised cottage cheese until I saw online that people were blending it, and I thought, oh, that's actually quite a good idea. So I have been blending it and putting it in replacement of cream. I just find it's a bit more of a healthier option than adding loads of cream to something, although I love cream. Adding the cottage cheese also ups the protein content in this, which will help keep it filling alongside the chicken and the beans. I looked at this and decided that it needed to be slightly creamier and thicker in texture, if that makes sense. So I am taking some of that soup out and I'm going to blitz it. By this point in the evening, little Bob was getting very tired and ratty, so I'm really sorry if you can hear him screaming in the background. I did try and put the sound down as much as possible. And I was pretty happy with that texture, so I popped a lid on it and let it boil for about 10 to 20 minutes. And just topped up the water to account for what the pasta was going to absorb. I actually saw this recipe on Instagram and I really liked the idea of it, so I've just adapted it to what works for me and the ingredients that I had. I will put the link to her video that I got inspiration from, if I can find it, in the description. A little bonus this week is I made a brownie, and I also ended up getting some reduced strawberries that were going out of date that day. So I picked them up. I didn't want them to go to waste. I picked them up and I macerated them in a little bit of local honey just to give them a little bit of extra sweetness, as it's not strawberry season quite yet here in the UK, and it was very much enjoyed. Day 7 was a very simple meal. It was a jacket potato with cheese and beans and a lovely salad on the side. My lovely husband actually made this for me to give me a night off, and it was very much enjoyed. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. I will be back with another video next week. See you for now. Take care.